It captures the attitude that we have when it comes to the basic notion of quarterback health. Minimize the number of hits, maximize your health. It is a basic mathematical formula. The fewer times you're hit, the less likely you are to be hurt. And the one shining example that sticks out for me is the stupid-ass Jimmy Garoppolo dropping his shoulder at the sideline to be a tough guy against the Chiefs week 3, 2018. And what did he do? Tore his ACL.
Yeah.
Dropping his shoulder into a DB. I'm a tough guy. I work out. I'm going to show you. And there goes the ACL. Now, sometimes when it happens within the heat of the game, at some key moment, it can be galvanizing for a team.
Yeah,
maybe
sure.
you can call it a calculated risk. It's not a calculated risk to drop a shoulder at the sideline when you're going out of bounds anyway. That's not a calculated risk. That's just uncalculated stupidity.
Well, I agreed. Now, like you said, Jimmy Garoppolo, he did a stupid thing there. He ain't built like Will Levis, right? I mean, Will Levis has been a little crazy the last few weeks. That's for sure. I respect the will, the want to, the physicality of the player altogether. But it went overboard the other night. I mean, this right there. I mean, first off, giving Jaylen Ramsey the business there. Jaylen Ramsey didn't even know how to react after that. And of course, there was another 2 or 3 plays as well. Let alone on the defensive touchdown. He tried to lower his shoulder and stop. Who was that? I can't even remember who scored that touchdown there. Seiler, right? He tried to lower his shoulder to tackle him there. So, he's got to be careful, definitely. And it's one that, college, you might be able to get away with some of that stuff. NFL, you are not going to get away with that. And hopefully he learns that before he learns a tough lesson.
We saw Tommy DeVito do the same thing for your New York Giants on Monday night when he slid and Keyshawn Nixon from the Packers hit him, and for some reason they didn't throw the flag when it was clearly contact. I think John Perry of ESPN tried to call it incidental. It's not incidental. If the guy is diving at the player who's sliding with the apparent intent of making contact and does make contact.
I know, but the guy can't slide while the guy's already launched the tackle. I had no problem with that.
But my point.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
right. Well, what a shock. What a shock.
Yeah.
What a shock. The guy whose attitude is beat the shit out of everybody.
That's right.
With it.
Man up.
But my point is this. Tommy DeVito later just decided, screw it. They're not going to give me the flag anyway. If I slide, I'll just run somebody over. And he ran over Darnell Savage. And Savage is on the sideline after that. So, again, you're risking injury every time you do it. And from our perspective, like if the guy ends up being okay, it is fun to watch every once in a while. I think that's the balance as a fan. Like it's fun to watch it, just don't get hurt. But once you commit to being physical in that moment, you are throwing caution to the wind, and you're just kind of hoping that the guy's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And it's not our bodies that might be impaired or might require surgical intervention. So, and that's a common thing for fans. Like, oh, yeah, go get him. Oh, boy, that's a shame you broke your leg. Oh, well, you go get him next time. But that's what you have to balance as a quarterback, because we've seen it this year, so many quarterback injuries. And I think there needs to be a premium placed on keeping quarterbacks healthy. And one way to do it as the quarterback and as the guy coaching the quarterback is coach him up on how to avoid getting himself injured by avoiding those moments like Will Levis trying to run over Jaylen Ramsey or Tommy DeVito trying to run over Darnell Savage.
I mean, you're right. There's a fine line. Hey, it's late in the game. It's 3rd and 7. You're scrambling. You got to dive in, do it. Playoff game, right? Sure.
Elway copter.
Right. Exactly right. I understand those moments. You got to give up your body. Sure. First, second quarter, meaningless, lowering your shoulder. There's no way I'm going to get the first down, whatever. That's the things he's got to get out of his game for sure. Now, the thing you're talking about, our enjoyment. The other thing is the locker room. He's going to get mad respect in the locker room. I mean, Johnny's trying to put him in a body bag. I mean, is it not hilarious? Is he not even going more into Johnny, put him in a body bag? I mean, I feel like he's embracing it now. I mean, now it's like with the war paint and everything, Johnny's going into war and battle and everything. I mean, he really has that whole attitude and mantra about him that I kind of chuckle with. But yeah, he's got to be careful. We know. And hey, the odd thing with the injury,
the only difference is his sensei is saying, don't get your legs swept.
Yeah. His sensei, I owe him a can of ham, too, for upsetting your best bet the other night. Way to go, Tennessee and Vrabel. Way to go, buddy.
Trust me, it's not a can. No, he's got expensive ham taste. It's gonna set you back $100 to placate his ham habit.
Yeah, well, don't worry. I'm not getting him anything, so don't worry.
Sorry I interrupted you.
Yeah, you're all good.
You're about to make a great point.
I was going to say, no, it wasn't a great point, but you talked about, protecting the quarterbacks and how, we got to keep that at a premium, and we want them to be healthy, of course, for better football and better viewing experience and drama and all that. But it's a year where all these injuries have happened, and very few of them have been on plays we're talking about, like with Will Levis, right? It's kind of ironic. A lot of them have been non-contact or very insignificant, right, physical contact to where you just go, well, I mean, protection's not going to do it there. I kind of found it ironic, and that's what happened this year.
But is it possible some of the non-contact stuff? Is it possible some of the things that happen with minimal contact? The stage was set by something that happened earlier.
Maybe.
And it's that non-contact moment. Like the Deshaun Watson torn ACL from practice non-contact in 2017. We were all stunned that day it happened. I remember it was early November, and it was like, wow, because the guy was putting together a C.J. Stroud type of a rookie season where there's MVP buzz for Deshaun Watson. All of a sudden, it's over. And when we met with him at the Super Bowl that year, he said he thought he did it 4 days earlier, playing all out against the Seattle Seahawks and having a great game, a game that prompted Richard Sherman to tell him afterward, no quarterbacks played against us like that, including Tom Brady, but it was physical and he got a hit, and maybe that's what set the stage for the non-contact injury. I want to mention this, and we are not even close to getting to the things we're supposed to get to, but I keep my finger on the pulse of what people are thinking about and people are talking about, in part by doing a lot of local radio.
Yeah.
And the questions I get from the hosts give me an idea of the things that people are interested in talking about. One question I've been getting more often is what more can be done to protect quarterbacks. And as you're saying, not all that much. I mean, number one, they have to protect themselves. Number two, shit happens. There it is, 10 minutes in. But number three, there's nothing more that can be done with the rules. They're already designed and are being applied in a way that is calculated to try to keep the quarterbacks healthy. And really, Chris, I want your thought on this. This is why I went this way. I think the only thing that could be done at this point to make the quarterbacks any safer doing what they do, and one of the reasons that the roughing the passer penalty is aggressively enforced, they are going against the flow of everything that is coming toward them. They are putting their passing arm out there against the rush of defenders. So they are particularly vulnerable when they're in that position. Well, just like punters and kickers. That's really the only other thing that could be done, and it would dramatically change the game. But if they applied the same rule that they use for punters and kickers to quarterbacks, once a ball out, you can't touch them. That's the only other thing they could do. And it would, I know that it would make your head explode if that was the rule.
It would.
But at the same time, plenty of others' heads would explode as well. But that's the only other thing they could do. So there's nothing they can do at this point.
Yes.
Because the only other thing they could do is apply the punter and kicker roughing rules. 5 yards, 15 yards. I mean, there is some appeal to it at a theoretical level, but in practice, it would very much change everything we see about how a pass play operates, because you'd have defenders who are slamming on the brakes, trying to slam on the brakes out of nowhere, because once the ball is away, you can't touch the guy.
Yeah, no, I would. My head would explode. I would stop watching football if that happened. I would actually be a spokesperson. I might be a spokesperson against watching it, honestly, if it goes that far. Because it's already borderline ridiculous. It is. And, again, all these rules and everything here, it shows you can't protect them all the time anyways. And they're making tons of money. So, screw the flow of the effing pass rush. Stand in there and make the damn throw. You're making $45 million a year. Nobody wants to hear it. It's part of the game. So what? Oh, no, we don't have our star quarterbacks for every game in the world. We're all still watching anyways. The games are still good.
That's right.
Right? So, I don't know. Yes, I don't want to see that. I definitely don't want to see that. That would change the dynamic of the game in a big way.
Last year, when the criticism was at fever pitch on the roughing the passer, or as you called it, nothing to pass penalty. They sent Troy Vincent to ESPN for the Sunday morning pregame to defend the roughing the passer calls. And his point was, we need to keep quarterbacks healthy because healthy quarterbacks fuel interest, drive ratings. The top 10 shows of the year are all NFL games, and if you take the quarterbacks away, that's not going to be the case. Well, what are we learning this year?
Yeah, no, it's not the case.
Still is the case.
Right.
Still is the case.
Right.
That whoever's out there playing quarterback, coach them up and go do it, and people are still going to watch. So they need to take a step back, and you don't want to get to the point where you have no quarterbacks left. Because God forbid somebody would have to sign Colin Kaepernick at some point. And you know the NFL still doesn't want to do that. But I'm being a little facetious there, but there is a point where you're just out of quarterbacks. And if something like this, I mean, think about this. If this year had happened in 2017, 2018, 2019, how do you not call Colin Kaepernick at some point? Whatever blackball they were successfully unfolding upon him and keeping him out of the league. You couldn't have kept him out of the league this year, if this year was 2017, 2018, or 2019. But assuming that you have a supply out there of quarterbacks, it's not going to change. It's not going to change people watching. It's not going to change the level of interest. It's not going to change the intensity as we get toward the playoff push. It is so wide open right now. We're going to have the power rankings later in the show.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a couple of great teams. It's one crap team, and it's everybody else, and it's all jumbled together. And so many teams are alive, and we're watching. And it doesn't matter that we've had all of these major quarterback injuries. We wish they hadn't happened, but to your point, we're not shutting off our TVs and saying, well, wait for spring training.
No. And, again, what I would argue, and, we grew up in this era, is, how did football ever survive without all these quarterback rules? Damn. How did Troy Aikman and John Elway and Jim Kelly and Dan Marino ever make it? Oh, my gosh, how did they do it? Right? A little of it is just the way the game has gone, too. We've got into running quarterback, right? Running quarterback, you get hit more. You get hurt more. You just talked about it with Will Levis, right? So we see that as being an issue. The physicality and the speed of the game has certainly improved that as well. And then, the introduction of the small quarterback in the NFL. That we have guys in the NFL that play quarterback right now that would not be playing quarterback in the 80s and 90s. They would go, you're too small. You can't stand in the pocket and take some of those hits. So because of that, they got guys that I think are going to get banged up for every now and then, and we'll see where it goes. This year, I haven't had too many complaints with it. There's been a few that have been, oh man, that's nothing to passer. But for the most part, I feel like they've found their touch, the Midas touch, the fine line there of, okay, that was a little too much, and that was just football. And I respect the adjustment, that's for sure.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.